Grandmaster Ted Gambadell here with my third thing I learned from Royce Graice. Royce Graice is a living legend in the martial arts world. He was the first person who was directly responsible for the increased growth of the UFC and the Ultimate Fighting Championship. His complete dominance of men up to twice his size and strength in the first 4 UFC competitions propelled the UFC into the public eye and created an enormous following that the MMA has today. I recently attended a seminar with Master Graice at Guy Metzner's Lions Den Sports Club in Dallas, the best school in Texas for mixed martial arts training. And at that seminar I learned 10 things I want to share with you, and we've already gone through the first one. The first thing I learned from Royce Graice was how to control a class or a fight with grace and ease, or as I call it, Grace ease. The second thing I learned from Royce Graice, or Royce Graice, is that you have to be ready to fight anyone, anywhere, anytime. And the third thing I learned from Royce Graice is I learned that fighting and the martial arts are very mental. So many people don't understand that. I asked Master Graice who was his toughest fight. What was his toughest fight? And he said it was in his mind. Then he asked me who my toughest opponent was, and I hesitated until he pointed out that my opponent was in my mind. He suggested if I were to tell him that he intended to fight me tomorrow, I would not sleep that night due to the mental anxiety thinking I'd have to fight Royce Graice tomorrow. And I couldn't agree more with that. How could you sleep if you knew that before you woke up the next morning you were going to have a fight with Royce Graice and he was going to kick your butt? And that was the entire point. It's the mental aspect of fear, anxiety, apprehension, worry, concern, confusion that is the real fight. With all the anxieties associated with the possibility of being in an imminent fight, you can't relax. You can't train right. You don't eat right. You can't sleep right. Your entire training and preparation program is confused, diffused, and destroyed in your mind. It is only when you overcome the mental anxiety associated with being in an actual fight that you control, and you can learn to control, the actual fight itself. You fight with your body and your mind. Your body works by mind control. Your hands and feet can't do what they're trained to do if you're not getting the correct signals from your mind. And your mind can't send the correct signals if it is confused, excited, anxious, neurotic, nervous, scared. You must have a calm, relaxed mind to fight well. And your mental conditioning is just as important as your physical conditioning. My son Teddy is a champion wrestler, and he worked very hard mentally and physically to become a champion wrestler. He trained 5 to 6 days a week, 2 to 4 hours a day, for 10 years before he became the state champion. He didn't just train 1 or 2 hours 1 or 2 times a week like so many martial arts students do. He trained 10 times as much as the average martial arts student for 10 times as long. And he trained his mind to enable him to achieve his full potential. When he first started wrestling, he was much too nervous and anxious to do his techniques right. He went too fast, he worked too hard, and he was out of breath and exhausted as the fight went past the first period. It was only when he got his mind right that he got his wrestling right. Once he learned to control his mind, he learned to control his opponents with his techniques. Many of the guys he wrestled never learned that. One in particular comes to mind. He was probably the best practice wrestler I've ever seen. No one took him down at practice, and he dominated people almost all the time in wrestling practice, even at the elite camps. Even those who outweighed him by 20 to 30 pounds. He was cool, calm, and efficient. He never got tired. He never made stupid moves. But when it came to actually wrestle in an actual contest or a match, he was a different person. He became nervous, anxious, and he soon lost control of his mind, which led him to lose control of his breathing, and that led to lose him control of his muscles, and finally control of the match. one particular example comes to mind. He was wrestling in the Greco-Roman State Championship, and so was my son. In Greco-Roman wrestling, you can earn a lot of points with a few moves if you get up, and if you get up by 12, you win the match. You can turn to people and get 3 to 5 points. My son was trapped after a bad shot, and his opponent began to get a series of rolls and switches that got him up 11-0. Teddy held on for the last 30 seconds, and only because he had a strong mind and refused to give up. At the break, he turned to his opponent and said, "You're in trouble now." Think about this. This is a wrestler 1 point from losing the state championship, and he's telling his opponent, "You're in trouble now." And he was. When the second period started, this time Teddy shot, and shot perfect. He took the guy down and immediately pinned him for the match, coming back from an 11-0 deficit. At the exact same tournament, the other wrestler I've been talking about was also in trouble after doing a poor shot and was down 8-0. At the break, he turned to the coach with a look as if it basically said, "I quit." And the second period, he did just that. He quit trying and was pinned almost immediately by a guy he used to beat every day in practice with ease. How did he lose? He lost in his mind. He became confused, he became anxious, and he lost control of his mind, which in turn caused him to lose control of his techniques and to lose control of the match. When you don't control your mind, Master Graice was exactly right when he said the toughest opponent was in his mind. And it is true for you too. Learn to control your mind, and you will learn to control a fight. You can't win a fight with a weak, confused, anxious, nervous mind. You win with a calm, determined, and powerful mind. Remember that. That's the third thing I learned from Royce Graice.